Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. Staff level discussions over the debt ceiling and budget between the White House and congressional Republicans resumed yesterday evening after President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy spoke by phone in the afternoon. The pair said that they would meet today face to face to try and avoid a massive default that's going to affect everyone. The NAACP has issued a travel advisory for Florida over Republican Governor Ron Santis's, quote, aggressive attempts to erase Black history and to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the state schools. Also, D.C. Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton reintroduced a resolution requesting that the Supreme Court subject itself to the ethics code that applies to other federal judges. Oh boy, that's going absolutely nowhere. I'm gonna tell you right now before we even get into that discussion. Beyonce and Jay-Z purchased a $200 million home in Malibu overlooking the Pacific Ocean, inking the most expensive real estate deal in California history. We'll dab into that just a little bit to change the mood a bit. A DC police lieutenant also was indicted for giving inside information to the Proud Boys. Check that out. We're going to discuss all that and more this morning. We got the men together this morning. Austin and Barrington have returned. Austin, how you doing?
Good morning, my brothers. Good to see you. Hope you all had a good weekend.
Morning. Busy weekend.
Busy weekend, Barrington?
Yeah, man.
Oh boy, say that like you mean it. Yeah, man.
No, it's true. It was a busy weekend. It was. I was just writing stories, trying to get Austin's story done. I'm writing other stories, and
Is Austin cracking the whip?
Oh, he's always cracking the whip.
Absolutely not. No. I'm the best boss you want to
have. So,
you don't want to let him down. So you know.
You can't let him down.
I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Hey, so, guys, the 14th Amendment, is that in play here with the debt ceiling? The McCarthy and the president will meet today to discuss more. But you keep getting same old mixed messages, and the deadline draws ever closer. Are we gonna see Biden try to invoke the 14th Amendment here?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It would get tied up in court and all this stuff. It would take too long. I don't get the sense that they're going to make a deal, because the Republicans really are trying to hold the White House hostage, and it's really interesting because they refuse to look at tax cuts, like to reverse tax cuts. What they want to do is the plan that the House passed would put means tests on Medicaid and food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they want to add a work requirement. These lazy sons of you-know-whats who don't do anything, who sit around and steal in public money. If ever there was a case of wage theft, this is it.
Well, they're going to get paid too,
and they're not doing anything, and all they keep on doing is trying to punish poor people and the middle class.
Yeah, they're going to, a shutdown, a default and a shutdown, Congress will still get paid. That's the other part of it.
No, but I don't know if you saw that.
I saw it was a resolution that was introduced.
Spamberger.
Yeah, but it's not going anywhere. They got the majority.
It might. They introduced a bill that would force Congress members to not get paid if there's a debt default.
But Barrington,
mm-hmm.
who has the votes? Who has to vote on that?
Well, the House does.
Right. And you gonna vote not to pay yourself?
Yeah, but it's only like a 4-vote difference, you know. So
yeah, I understand.
I don't trust any Republican. They keep on trying to make this distinction between so-called moderate Republicans and these idiots, Marjorie Taylor Greene and stuff. But there's no difference, because every time that there's a vote, all of the Republicans vote for it.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, unlike previous threats of shutdown, closing of the federal government, This speaker, unlike any speaker in recent history, has his hands tied,
Yeah.
unlike all the recent speakers. So this is what the Malcolm X, the chicken's coming home to to roost. All of the deals that he had to make and remake and unmake and remake during that 15 vote process to become the speaker back in January.
Mm.
Now we're seeing the results of it, and there may very well be a be a shutdown. We saw crazy Trump last week or 2 weeks ago at the CNN town hall meeting calling for a shutdown.
And you don't think McCarthy is going to
Imagine
listen to
a current
Trump?
president or a former president calling for the shutdown of the federal government.
Yeah. It'll
But
be the first time.
it's gonna go the same way it did with Ted Cruz in 2013. It severely damaged the Republicans when they did it in 2013. It's going to do the same thing.
Well, it'll be the first time that they've defaulted.
Because people still don't vote for them.
Yeah, it'll be the first time America has defaulted on its debt.
Yeah.
Austin, what is the ramifications, particularly for people of color and low income
Well, as
earners?
Barrington said, Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, it's going to impact the least of the least of these in society.
Yeah, it's
And to Barrington's point earlier, I forget how much members of Congress get paid.
$174,000 each.
$174,000, right?
And
yeah. The speaker gets
House
more.
Yeah, the speaker gets a little more.
The House
But,
Speaker gets 224,000.
Yeah, but keep in mind how many millionaires we have in Congress, in particular the United States Senate. So it's not going to impact members of Congress, no matter how many paychecks you short them, the way it will impact the average American.
Well, Power 96 says if his retirement check doesn't come next month, it will be a misunderstanding. Some furniture will be moving. So we'll see what happens. It's very unlikely. No matter who might sound an optimistic tone or whatever, it's very unlikely that McCarthy will be allowed to make a deal with.
Yeah, that's the thing, because they're saying that if he makes a deal with President Biden, he has to go back to them fools and get their approval.
Yep.
And keep in mind, years ago when President Obama was in office and we were sort of teetering on a government shutdown like we are now, not fulfilling our debt, and President Obama, cut a deal he thought was a deal with then Speaker Boehner.
Yeah.
And to Barrington's point, by the time Speaker Boehner got back up to the Capitol and had to talk to his base, the deal was off the table.
Yeah.
So the president and the speaker are meeting one-on-one today. The president just got back from Japan a few hours ago, and let's see what happens.
But here's the thing: we none of us who are in our roles as journalists can assume that we're dealing with credible, sensible people on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
The Republican Party is not they don't care about governing. And if you listen to Gates, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and all of them, their whole thing is to do what Trump told us what the plan was when he came in, to dismantle the administrative state. They want to make sure that there's nothing in government that can run.
Well, David Youngblood says that ridding this country of the Republican Party by way of a default is a small price to pay for the future of the country. But
how would that rid the country of the GOP?
Yeah, well, I and David can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think David's take is that if they do let this happen, there's no way that voters will vote them back into office next year.
No. You think he thinks too highly of voters. The only thing that's saving America is that the people that support Trump and them are the minority.
Well, and this is all about the 2024 election. This is why there's no deal on the debt. David says that's correct. There's no deal on the debt. There won't be a deal probably. You hate to sound negative, and here's the other part of it. Before we move on, 8 million people. It's estimated that 8 million people will lose their jobs
Yeah.
if there is a default.
Yeah.
So how do you sell that to your constituents? How do you say,
No, they're selling it to the base, Stacy. They
yeah,
don't care about the rest of their constituents. They're just selling it to the base. But
yeah,
it's a madness, because surely somebody in what used to be the Republican Party should be trying to figure out that all of the elections that they've lost, all of the opposition that they've had, and they're still going forward with this madness. It's some craziness, bruh.
it is. Well, the NAACP, talking about craziness, has issued a travel advisory for Florida over crazy Republican Governor Ron DeSantis' aggressive attempts to erase Black history and to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the state schools. They said Florida is, quote, openly hostile toward African Americans, people of color, and the LGBTQ plus community. Before traveling to Florida, the NAACP advises, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other communities of color. Um, Austin, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, as I've said before, gentlemen, this is my state of birth. I have a ton of relatives, down there. It's where my, parents were born, where my dad is buried, and I no longer recognize my state. And Florida had been a conservative state for a very long time. I think this is a sad but necessary step by the NAACP. Now, just think of this. What today? May 22nd, 2023. The NAACP, the oldest, most historic civil rights organization in the country, has seen a need to issue this. It's like going back to the days of the Green Book.
Mm.
So it's just very sad and unfortunate. But it also goes back to the point of voting. As I recall, when DeSantis beat what the brother who got caught up in trouble.
Andrew Gillum.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew Gillum. It wasn't a wide margin. It was a pretty close margin, as I recall. Now, when DeSantis won re-election last November, it was a wide margin. I think he had like 15 or 16 point lead, and that was a result of the Democratic base not coming out and voting. And I say, and I'll always say that it goes back to voting. If more of us had voted for Gillum, gotten out to vote, several years ago, like 2018 or whatever year that 2018, then there would have been no Ron DeSantis. The vote, the vote, the vote.
But Austin, what we're looking at is a group of people that are doing everything they can to steal every vote they can. I'm not convinced that DeSantis won that election, honestly, because at the day before and I know we can't really put much credence in polls and all that type of stuff.
No.
But he had a significant lead, 6 to 10%, if I remember. And then all of a sudden DeSantis wins. I'm telling you, I covered that, and I talked to people in South Florida, and they talked about DeSantis and the GOP stealing votes, dumping votes, taking votes from young people. So I don't believe he really won. And you got to put it in context, brothers. This whole voter suppression effort by the Republicans, they're stealing people's votes. They're taking people's votes. So until we find a way to
it's funny. Wait a minute, though. It's funny you say that, because they're the ones who crying about doing all this stuff about voter fraud and things like that.
They're liars. They're liars.
Oh, well, we know that they've not been proven true at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like this Orwellian ecosystem where up is down and down is up. They're stealing elections. They've done extreme gerrymandering. They've redistricted. I mean, during the redistricting process, DeSantis took control of the redistricting process,
Exactly.
killed off the what's the woman's name that she ran for the Senate?
Val
Demings, killed her seat, killed Al Lawson's seat, and put 3 or 4 more Republicans in office. And nobody said anything. Nobody did anything. Nobody said it was illegal. So that's what we're dealing with.
Well, David Youngblood says boycott Florida. Power 96 says that Ron DeSantis, this is what he calls him, is going full Jim Crow. The separate water fountains are next. He also says this, and he says that Roland Martin was praising school choice in Florida, which Ron DeSantis supports. Don't shoot me, I'm just a messenger. Yeah, I don't know much about that. Power 96 says news to me. For some reason, I didn't see that. And got to hear Roland Martin's take on that one. Guys, so Florida is it's been off limits for a little while now, right? I mean, what's the point of explain to our audience why we should go there as minorities?
We shouldn't go.
Yeah.
The thing is that what makes me crazy is that these people do these things and there's no repercussions. We got to make them suffer. And it's funny because the mouse is kicking DeSantis's butt.
Well, I was going to say, that's the other thing too.
Right?
He just blew a multi-billion-dollar development
deal.
$1 billion deal because they were going to bring a campus to Florida, employ 20,000 more people.
So it begs the question, like, how long even his supporters, how long does the people of Florida puts up with that?
He's done. No, listen, you have a compliant bunch of weasels in the legislature. It's a supermajority in the Senate and the House. They believe that what he does. The thing for me is that I'm watching all of this and I'm waiting. I can't wait for him to decide to run for president. And as much as I hate Donald Trump's going to eat that fool for lunch.
Yeah.
Well, his announcement is expected this week. By the way, Barry.
Oh, he is. So he's not ready for prime time.
Yeah, he also had the legislature pass a law or pass some sort of, I guess, law really, and they passed it unanimously that he doesn't have to give up his seat to run for president. So
and you see what some of DeSantis supporters over the last 2 weeks have announced, some trepidation. Continuing to support him because he's getting, too far extreme. But you all know, so DeSantis is supposed to announce later this week. Okay. And you know who is going to announce today?
Tim Scott.
Uncle Tim?
Tim Scott. Uncle Tim. Uncle Tom Tim. Uncle Tom Tim.
The thing that I don't understand is why they're wasting their time.
Yeah.
Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson. And I mean, even Nikki Haley.
Yeah. Don't you think Barrington, Austin, I mean, I think they all are declaring now with the thought I don't think they anticipate going up against Trump.
How could you not if you decide that?
Because I think they believe I really because
that Trump won't run.
Well, he's running, but we know that the indictment he's got court in December for the New York indictment. We know Willis in Georgia is going to announce her indictment in August.
What's Jack's name? Jack.
The special counsel. So I think they are all anticipating that that's going to knock Trump out. That's the only reason why all of these.
But can't you, gentlemen? Can't you still run if you're indicted?
Oh yeah. I think they believe it's going to knock him out.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that that Trump is going to stay in the race, and any legal repercussions will come after November. I think once you are found guilty, then you can no longer. I mean, we may very well be in a position where the God forbid president-elect of the United States is found. God forbid.
Why do you say God forbid? He's a goddamn criminal.
No, I'm saying God forbid Donald Trump become president again.
Oh, okay.
And as president, and as president-elect, God forbid if he wins,
Yeah.
president-elect, he may be ultimately found guilty,
Yeah.
and then that will be a whole nother issue.
But then he can pardon himself because those are federal crimes, right? No, New York is a state
and
crime.
yeah,
Georgia
Georgia,
himself.
Georgia
Yeah.
state, yeah.
Georgia state crimes.
Yeah, those are state crimes. Okay, so Shane Lamont, a lieutenant for the Metropolitan Police Department in
In
Washington,
Washington,
D.C.,
D.C. Uh-huh.
the intelligence branch in the nation's capital.
Yeah.
He was indicted for 1 count of obstruction of justice and 3 counts of making false statements to police. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia alleged that Lamont used his position to share confidential information with Enrique Tarrio, the former leader of the Proud Boys, who was recently found guilty of seditious conspiracy in connection with the January 6th Capitol attack. High-ranking police official in Washington, D.C., now under indictment for giving this information to a terrorist group.
Well, the sad thing is that there are a whole lot more like this guy, men and women, not only in the DC police force, but New York police force, FBI, Secret Service, who have his mindset, and who, like this guy, he just got caught, and thank God he got caught. But there are others who I hope will end up being charged with what should be treason.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. In 2007, right, the FBI had an extensive report about the infiltration of these white nationalists. I won't call them white supremacists because they're not supreme. These white nationalists infiltrating the police department and the military. They have joined these organizations to get the training that they need for the civil war that they hope comes. And a part of what they're doing too, they said there's a lot of these far right-wing people who went to Ukraine to fight, to prepare for the war that they claim or hope is coming. This arrest, this indictment is just the tip of the iceberg.
Let me ask you a question, though. Like you said, there's so many others out there, right? And he got caught. Do you think somebody told on this guy? Somebody made a deal? Maybe one of the guys, maybe he did, who is facing a long federal prison stretch for his conviction, and several others were convicted of sedition. Conspiracy. Do you think somebody may have cut a deal?
It's possible.
Likely.
Anything is possible because they're saying minimum 20 years if these guys are found guilty.
Right.
Seditious conspiracy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that
because when they talking 20 years or more, listen, I'm telling on everybody.
I would sing like a canary.
No, but if they act like they're tough guys, so if they're tough, take the time.
Yeah, they ain't tough. I'm telling on everybody.
Yeah, they're not as tough as they pretend to be.
Arrington, you going down with me? I'm telling you right now.
I'm going down.
Yeah, you go with me. If I'm going down, you're going down.
That's why I wouldn't be doing anything with you because I know you're gonna give me up. I know you're gonna be like, please, I'll do anything. No, I'm not with that. Because my thing. I've always thought that if you decide to go down particular roads, to do certain things, shut your mouth and take whatever because the possibility exists. I'm not gonna snitch.
Right.
But I know that you got to pick the right people because if you don't, then they go.
But you know what? But you know what? I think in Power 96 says Enrique Tarrio told on him. Tarrio was singing like the Mississippi Mass Choir. But Timothy Williams said Enrique was already an informant. So
really,
yeah. Look,
really.
See, I didn't know that.
So Enrique was an informant.
This is according to Timothy Williams. She said that he was already an informant. David says he sings in high C.
So he told them then, if that's the case.
Listen, I would imagine when you get, and that's the problem with all of these criminals, right? you're dealing with criminals, and they only gonna look out for themselves. Criminals look out for criminals, right? They're gonna look out
Right.
for
Right.
themselves.
Yeah.
Um,
And the criminals in the police departments are taking care of their own.
and they take care of their own, right? Exactly.
Because
So
I interviewed a police officer
Greer says he's been cooperating, by the way.
who Tario.
Enrique, yeah.
But I interviewed a police officer and I asked her, I said, you know, why is it that you all are so quiet when you see this stuff going on? And she said, listen, people that she knew would go out, cops would go out on calls, nobody would respond. They'd be out there by themselves in dangerous situations. They threatened them, they threatened to kill their families. And so you have to, it's a calculus that you have to figure, do I do it or don't I? So, you know, and they always keep on telling us that it's a few bad apples. That's garbage.
Yeah. Well, listen, we only got a few minutes left. We got a couple of topics to get to because somebody's got car trouble. So we on the whim of car trouble this morning. I'm telling you, upgrade that 88 Ford.
I know, right?
This DC delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton reintroduced Friday a resolution requesting that the Supreme Court subject itself to the ethics code that applies to other federal judges. The Code of Conduct for United States judges, adopted by the Judicial Conference of the United States, provides standards for recusals for avoiding various ethics matters that arise in the administration of justice. We've seen enough with Clarence Thomas, haven't we?
Yeah, but the delegate should have saved her paper. Because John Roberts has already made it clear that he's not doing anything.
Right.
Because he is as culpable as Clarence Thomas is. I mean, his wife, they said, made $10 million in commissions to hire lawyers for law firms that have gone before the court seeking resolution on different things. Yeah. So the whole thing is immoral. The whole thing is corrupt, the whole system. And I do not know why our president is waiting not to make the steps to expand the court.
Well, that window closed during last election.
Really?
Well, listen, the House is now controlled by Republicans. He had the House and the Senate and didn't do it.
That's the only way he can do it, because I don't know.
No, it has
the only way it can be done. Yeah,
that's the only way. It has to go through Congress and the Senate. And
they better hope that they beat their ass in 2024 and gain control of both houses. And hopefully, I doubt that he will, because he claims that he's an institutionalist, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Didn't Biden appoint a commission or something?
Yeah, they did a commission. They had a whole bunch of recommendations.
Expanding. What happened? Did they ever come out with recommendations?
No, it's on a shelf gathering dust somewhere.
Yeah.
William Franklin, you can send me a friend request. Anybody can send me a friend request. I'll accept it, William. I'm responding to a message from.
You need friends. Stacey needs friends.
I need friends, right? I mean, look who I got now.
I know. How do you know I'm your friend? Am I your friend?
Are you? I don't know. You're throwing me under the bus today.
I'm not only your friend, I'm your boy.
See, there you go. There you go.
Austin just trying to curry favor. Go on, Austin. Keep going.
Hey, listen, we did not mention. Well, it happened over the weekend, right? The death of
Jim Brown. Last Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday night.
The death of Jim Brown, 87 years old.
87.
Yeah, the greatest running back ever.
He's one of the greatest athletes ever.
One of the greatest.
Yep. You know that when he's at Syracuse, he was a championship winning lacrosse player.
Right. Exactly.
And he played baseball, basketball, and he may have run track, if I'm not mistaken.
And he got better at acting the more he did it.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, you have to give him, kudos for a spectacular football career. Early in his career, he was a civil rights activist on the level of, Arthur Ashe and Muhammad Ali. But I'm sorry, fellas, I'm left with that lasting impression of
Mhm.
him cooling
hanging out with Trump.
in the Oval Office with with Trump.
Yeah. I think that is part of the problem that many are having in assessing Jim Brown's life, and it's unfortunate because he was a central part, or at least he was a really big part of the civil rights movement. He was one of those athletes and entertainers who helped the civil rights movement.
That's
Um,
Was
and he also, of course, he did something that just about nobody else does, which is retire on top,
yeah,
at the
yeah,
top of his game.
yeah. Well, I read one of the obits and they said he's a very complicated person, which he was, because I think about him and I think about his domestic violence and his abuse
But
towards
then you
her,
had that, yeah.
right.
right? And those types of things, you got to weigh the good and the bad.
hmm
Fabulous
How,
athletes.
how much does football play? That, and we don't have time to really delve into this. Maybe we should go into this at another time too. But we hear about all the concussion syndromes and things like that, and all the things that it has happened. How much did football play into his violence against women?
It could have played a role. It could have
Yeah,
played a role. We don't know.
yeah. So finally, this morning, Beyonce and Jay-Z purchased a $200 million Malibu home overlooking the Pacific Ocean out in Malibu, California. It is along Billionaires Row. And Beyonce, here's the tidbit that I take away from that. Not only it is the most expensive home in California history, but it is estimated that on this tour that she's on, this tour alone, she is going to gross $2 billion
Yeah,
on the tour alone.
yeah.
How much is too much? Not the money part, not even the money part, but the house. Look at that house.
But here's the thing, Stace. Those of us who spend any time thinking about this, this is the epitome of the capitalist dream.
Okay, wait, before you get into that, because I know Austin's got to go shortly, so we're gonna have to sign off shortly. But here's the thing that stands out to me, and here comes my pettiness coming out. So Kurt Rappaport of the West Side Estate Agency represented both parties, the seller and the buyer. He represented the seller and Beyonce and Jay-Z. Kurt Rappaport. Why couldn't it be Austin Cooper or Raheem Smith? This is the thing that continues to bother me.
Yeah,
Not just with Jay-Z,
yeah. But all of them.
but all of them.
Look at all the athletes. Look at the agents that most of these athletes have.
Yes. Chris Tucker, the comedian, I happen to know the agent. Now he's unfortunately passed away, but he could have bought from anybody, but he bought from a black agent. He bought this sprawling home near Las Vegas, Nevada, some years ago, early 2000s, and he took his business to purposely to this black agent. Who I knew very well at the time. But why can't you do something like that?
It takes a level of consciousness, Stace.
Exactly.
It takes a level of consciousness.
You got a $200 million deal. How life changing that would be for an up and coming, really go getter type, minority black.
How about invite all of the HBCU presidents to dinner at that sprawling residence
Mhm.
and wipe out their debt and
Yeah.
give all HBCUs the opportunity? How about establishing a $1 to $5 million scholarship endowment
Yeah.
at each of the HBCUs?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then it would be less
Egregious.
less egregious, with this kind of nonsense.
Consciousness,
Yeah,
brothers.
maybe the two of you in a big house like that. I mean, hey, if you got the money, then
Yeah, and
you-
and 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 I don't hate on that. I don't hate on that. My problem again is who you chose to represent you on that deal, and the person.
Stacey, sorry to cut you.
Go ahead. No.
So that makes us have to look at Jalen Hurts, black agent,
Yes.
who happened to be Jamaican.
Yep.
Nicole Lynn.
Yep.
His entire management team are women.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them Black.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a level of consciousness that I wish we saw more of.
Exactly. And it's not about, not to sound like everything has to be Black people got to do what Black people, but when you're in certain positions, I think you got to, what that's saying, everybody knows that saying from Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility.
And those of us who are in these positions need to reach back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's imperative for us to reach back.
Exactly. It's like it'd be like Tyler Perry and Spike Lee only hiring white or other actors and actresses and producers and directors or whatever. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But you have people that do that, Stacey, every day.
I know.
But Dr. Bobby Wright called it menticide.
Yeah.
There is an illness that we have. White man's ice is colder. The self-loathing that people carry. They think that whatever it is that we have isn't as good. They've bought into the inferiority complex.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of work to do, bro.
Yeah, I mean they could use their money to help the the legal defense funds.
Yeah.
Some of these young brothers and young sisters who are being murdered by civilians and by the police.
Yeah.
Get on the phone and talk to the brother mayor we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, the mayor of Jackson.
Yeah.
Say, hey, how can I help support your efforts down in Mississippi?
But if they need a template to follow, LeBron James is the best template.
Exactly.
Because he's putting all of these young people through school.
Yep.
He's paying for college. He has an academy for high school students. The work that he's done to build up our communities is incalculable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that'll wrap it up for tonight. This Greer says, who says they don't do some of these things? Austin has to get a Mexican to change his tire.
What did she say? What? What did Greer say?
She said Austin has to get a Mexican to change his tire. She said, do not repeat it. I repeated it already. I thought that was for public consumption. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Oh, God, you guys are hilarious.
Listen, I know one thing. When Austin buys his $200 million house, he's going to call on some people of color to represent him. I know that.
Absolutely.
Regardless. Anyway, Barrington, what do you got to say, Barrington, before we close? Go ahead, say it.
No, I'm cool.
He's like, you better go ahead and close before I say something.
I know before I say it.
No. I'm not going to heap anything on Austin. I'm good.
Well, anyway, we are so glad you guys joined us today. We are always glad to have Austin and Barrington. I know the audience loves Austin and Barrington more than anyone else. So we always have y'all. Love to have y'all. Thanks everybody for watching. See you tomorrow.